Hello everyone, my name is Arad and we're team ReelTake.
My name is Katie, and we're here to present our app, ReelTake, which is built on Xero and used Make and Lovable. So it's aimed at small film distributors who need to keep track of their box office takings. They have different deals with each exhibitor and venue, which gets really complicated. So we decided to take the pain out of that workflow for them so they can automatically create invoices in Xero. So how does it work? The statement arrives from the exhibitor and specific venue with the box office takings for each film title. These are split out and then you can review it in the app and approve the figures. The deal is then applied for that specific venue and exhibitor to calculate your share, and then you can automatically create the invoice in Xero. There is a current need for this kind of software. The film industry is lacking some solutions for its complicated invoicing, so we noticed in the support tickets that this is definitely a gap that we can fill.
This is the homepage of the application, where in the middle of the page you can see your featured movies and their total takings. And at the bottom of the page, you have a very brief summary of your takings. I want you to bring your attention to the deals page, where you can see the terms you have put in the contracts with the exhibitors. So you are a small to medium-sized distributor sharing your content with these exhibitors, and you define from this period, from 4th of July till 10th of July, for showing this movie in View Cinema Manchester, 75% of the grosses will go to me and the rest will go to the exhibitor. So now this is the backbone of our application. Now all the box office is then mapped to these deals, and all the invoices are generated based on these terms. Then we move to performance, where we can see the performance of our content based on different metrics. So first and foremost, we have the daily takings. We can see how our title is done over the period of the days, and we can slice it by title, and then we can slice it even by the venue, and also we can see how much our share was from the total gross box office. And then next you can see the performance of each individual film, the performance of each individual cinema, and then how many ticket types you've sold. What was the most famous ticket type? So in this case, it was the ones for adults. Now, let's take a look at the end-to-end workflow of when a box office receipt is received from an exhibitor until when we generate the invoice to be sent to the exhibitors. It starts off by receiving an email. A make scenario keeps track of the emails that we receive, and I've got this mailbox for the sole purpose of this project. So this is the email currently I've received. As we can see, it's a box office receipt. This is how it looks like. We have different information about the screenings that they've had. So for example, the play date, the location of the theater, and then finally the admissions and the prices and all the other relevant informations. Now, what happens is that as soon as this email arrives, it triggers our box office data extraction scenario within Make. And if we take a look at this history, we can see that at the moment it's running because we have just received the email. So if we take a look inside, here's what it does basically. It's connected to our mailbox using a webhook. So as soon as we receive an email, it's triggered. Then based on the email subject, we identify which exhibitor it comes from. We also identify the start date and the end dates of the box office data that is held inside the receipt. And as soon as we have those data, we can create a statement. Statement doesn't have the granular data yet. We will then upload it to a different table. So here is my table schema within Superbase. So as soon as I receive these, I upload them here. I've got the box office lines and I've got the statements. So once I create a statement, then I give that file, the receipt that I've received, to Claude. And Claude goes over the file and generates the granular data for me. So this will how it will look like. So this is the JSON response. We can see all these lines of box office data. So for example, let's take a look at this one, the venue name, the play date, the screen, all the information that we had in the receipt broken down into a JSON format. Now, we iterate through these box office data that we received from Claude, and well, we have the main venue and title names, but we don't know their ID, so we have to map them. So we do a search rows in Superbase using the name, we get their ID, same for the title, and a deal is something that the exhibitor and the distributor come up with to collaborate with each other on a content. And each deal has a title associated to it and a venue. So in order to have the deal, we need to have the venue and the title first. And using those IDs, we will then we'll give those as the input. So we'll give the venue ID and title ID and receive the deal ID. And finally, using that, we can upload each individual box office data while mapping it to its corresponding deal. Finally, on the ReelTake dashboard, here in the statements, we can see that we have this new statement from Curzon Cinemas that has just arrived. It shows us a brief summary of the data inside it. So we can come into this and we can and this is the data that was generated by Claude from the box office receipt that we received, and you can review it, and once you're happy with it, you can come down here and confirm the figures. Once confirmed, it will be moved to a status called reviewed, so it's already been reviewed. Now it needs to be invoiced. So you come down here and you tap on create invoice in Xero. Now as soon as you tap that, it triggers another scenario in Make, and that is generating an invoice, because Make just makes it so easy to interact with Xero. It already handles the authentication, so it just makes it so much easier, and it already has all the APIs, so you can directly call them there. So we connect our, let's see if it has run already. Yes, it has just run, and we go to the history. So it's connected using a webhook again. So we send a HTTP request to it, and then we mapped, so we have this statement. So in the request, when we tap on generate invoice, we pass the statement ID, so it receives it here, and we get the statement ID, and then we search the rows to grab this statement, because each statement has an invoice associated to it. So we need to know what our statement is, which exhibitor this receipt belongs to. And as soon as we have that information, we make an API call using the Superbase action. So we get all the invoices, all the box office data that relate to that specific statement. So this is a custom function within Superbase. Using the statement ID, it gives me all the relevant box office data of that. So using that, I can then realize how much should I charge this specific customer. Now, once I have all those data, I need to make a summary out of it. So, this data is in its most granular level, but I don't need to put all those single rows within my invoice. So I summarize them, and once summarized, I map the customer. So I have this exhibitors table, and it has a Xero contact ID in it. It's a UUID, so I use that to identify which customer within Xero it corresponds to. So this is the list of all my customers. So here I understand which customer this receipt is for, and which customer needs to be charged and invoiced. And using that, I finally create an invoice. So by now it should have already generated the invoice. So this was for Curzon. So we go here and we can see that we have this invoice here. When we tap on this, we can see that the subtotal has been 52,000. So let's quickly cross-check here. So 52,000 is correct. So basically the total gross was £106,000. But again, we said we have a deal between us and the exhibitor. Not all the money comes to us. So we have to calculate this individual box office data and then sum them all up together and then understand, okay, what do we need to collect? What do we actually need to invoice this customer based on? And yes, and also the tax is included. And then finally, we can preview this invoice. We can send it to the user, and we can get paid. So that was the end-to-end workflow of when a box office receipt is received. It's broken down using Claude. It's put into Superbase, it's been mapped to all of our other databases, and finally an invoice is generated out of it.